How are you doing, green industry business leaders? This is episode number 26 of the Green Industry Profits Podcast, where we talk about how green industry companies can grow in a profitable way. In today's episode, we had a conversation with Ryan Lee, owner of Landscaping Lighting Secrets. We dive into the types of landscape lighting, margins to shoot for, pricing tips, adding landscape lighting as an additional service line, and much more. And before we dive into this episode, just a quick note that this podcast is brought to you by Cycle CPA, a remote accounting firm that works specifically with green industry businesses. For more information, go to cyclecpa.com. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. All right. Hi, everybody. Today we got a pretty awesome guest here, Ryan Lee with Landscape Lighting Secrets. And this is something that we haven't discussed yet here on the podcast, or really in any of our other content in regard to landscape lighting. And um, but thank you very much for joining us here, Ryan.
Man, I'm so excited. I love the green industry. I love landscape lighting. You'll see that over just the next few minutes. I'm so passionate about this stuff. So anytime I get a chance to talk business and helping people make more money and more profit, this is my jam.
Awesome stuff. And yeah, and whoever doesn't follow Ryan, first off on his social media channels, I know I follow you on Instagram. It's some great content and things that you can learn and implement pretty much immediately if you have landscape lighting or even if you're considering it. So definitely recommend that. But Ryan, for those that are not aware of you and kind of what you do, you mind just sharing kind of your background and how you got into the industry?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna do this as brief as possible, but there's some context I think is super helpful for people because I may be surprising, but I wasn't born passionate about landscape lighting. I wasn't born an entrepreneur. Okay, I had no idea I could do what I've done, and I think that's important. So growing up, I wanted to be the first one in my family to get a college degree. I was going to be the one person to change the family trajectory forever. So that was really important. I got a marketing degree. I got an MBA. And when I was going through that, I had this desire to kind of start my own business, but I didn't know how to do it. My brother had started a window cleaning business down in Texas, and I was in Utah, and I was like thinking, oh man, I'm going to be so book smart. I could help him, grow this window cleaning business. So all the exercises were like, how do I grow a window cleaning business? But my wife and I, we moved down there. We were actually going down there to buy a house, we bought a house like in the visit to go look for a house. We bought a house. We're in the hot tub celebrating with my brother and like this is gonna be so awesome. And he told me, he goes, yeah, we can look into Christmas lights and we can look into landscape lights when you get down here. And I was like, what? Like, what is that? What is landscape lights? And he goes, yeah, people pay for lights on the houses and the trees. And he did two jobs that were $4,000 each. And I was like, what? Like someone paid $4,000 to put lights on a house? Like that's crazy. We grew up with a single mother. We didn't have landscape light money. So it just blew my mind. He goes, yeah, apparently that's not a very big job. It's just kind of like getting started. I was like, dude, if you're telling me what you're telling me is the truth, I'd much rather sell a $4,000 lighting job than a $250 window cleaning job any day of the week. And literally that night, we're like, dude, let's do a lighting business. So I knew nothing about it. We got into the landscape lighting business like that, and it was really just a for me, it was like I was just starting this to make money. I wasn't passionate about windows. I wasn't passionate about landscape lighting. I wasn't even passionate about business. I just knew it was a faster path to provide for my family at the time, and that's what got us started.
That's a pretty neat story, and I'm sure part of that initial aspect of it was just the marketing approach in regard to okay, how are you going to get clients? How has that evolved from when you first started up until even now, when now you even help others in the industry,
Yeah.
things that you're
Well,
working on?
what's interesting is like what I teach now is the exact same path that I went on, except we eliminate all the struggles. So, what took me 12 years, we're helping people do in 2 to 3 years. And I went through all the phases of being a business owner from being so excited and can't stop me now, American dream, to like lowest of the low, depressed, like I can't do this. I think I should just quit, get a job. Like we went through all that stuff, ended up building that business to a point where I could exit it. And I sold that business in 2019, and then now we started, Landscape Lighting Secrets, where we have a community and training platform to help people really not just like survive in business, but thrive, like help them
Yeah.
dominate. So it's just teaching all those principles I learned along the way. When I started that business, we basically he had an existing client base. So if anyone's listening, you're in landscaping or lawn care, you have an existing client base who already knows, likes, and trusts you. And it's pretty easy to just offer something new to them. You don't have to like copy and paste what you're doing now into a new city. You can email, text, and phone call your existing client base and like, hey, we did you know that we offer landscape lighting? Did you know we could do this? And that was our catalyst. We did 350 grand our first year, honestly, without even know what we were doing. I didn't know about business. I didn't know about landscape lighting, but we did have an existing client list that we could kind of utilize.
Very nice. No, that's definitely nice to be able to have those upsell opportunities because you're not paying to acquire that customer.
Yeah.
So definitely optimal when it comes to profitability. And as for those because there are a lot of people that are listening that might even potentially add this on as a service to maybe their existing company, whether they do maintenance or maybe they're already doing some of the outdoor living design, build, stuff like that. I guess what are your recommendations for those that are looking to add it on? Maybe even, potentially do as an upsell this upcoming season. What are some things that or even mistakes that you've seen people um, kind of take as they kind of started that process?
Well, there's a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
I made pretty much all of them too. So no judgment here. But if you don't have a mentor, you don't have a blueprint,
Yeah.
then of course, some things are going to work, some things aren't. Um, it's not very difficult to learn design and install. The install is probably the easier thing. Design is a little bit more difficult for people. And there's a lot of resources out there, but the number one thing I think is like invest in lighting yourself. So light your own house. If you don't have a house, you live in an apartment, then find someone who has a house and light
Yeah.
that. Like you just need some experience. Because even if I teach you, we have like lighting academy where we teach this stuff virtually. It's like me teaching you how to ride a bike. I'm like, hey, when the handlebars dip, I want you to pull up. You're going to need some speed to keep momentum so you don't fall. And you're like, okay, I got this. Or you're going to go ride the bike and I'm almost 100% you're going to fall and scratch your knee. And you're going to be like, dude, what the hell, Ryan? I thought you said you could teach someone how to ride a bike, right? But you need to get on that bike and feel what it feels like so that you go, oh, and now I know what he was talking about. When it dips, I got to pull it up. I got to keep my momentum. So it's a little bit of learning and a little bit of experimentation. But man, there's demo kits that you can get, little temporary lights that you could set up. And that's the key to getting started because you can set the lights out. If it's too bright, move them back. If it's not bright enough, move them forward. See what one light on a tree looks like. See what five lights looks like on a tree, and really dial in what it is you're trying to go for. When you try to tell a client that knows nothing about lighting, they need five lights on a tree, they're like, dude, you're crazy. You're just trying to take my money. But when you show them and they're like, I don't think we need five, you're like, no problem. How many do you think we need? Three? All right. So you show them with three, and they're like, you're right, we need five. So
Yeah.
it becomes an easy way to learn design and increase your sales out of the gate.
Yeah. And you also mentioned earlier in regard to that you were able to offer $4,000 for a job, so it's a little higher ticket rather than maybe some of um, the other services that you were doing prior to that. And pricing is I think a lot of companies when you first start out, typically you don't price enough to be able to recoup some of the overhead costs and different operating costs as you kind of scale the company. But I guess what are your recommendations around pricing within landscape lighting?
I'm actually glad you brought that up because when you said overhead, like even though I had an MBA, I wasn't thinking about overhead. I was just trying to like, if I sold a $4,000 job, I was like, dude, I just made 2 grand, baby. Like materials only cost me half and whatever. I wasn't thinking like a business owner. I wasn't thinking like an entrepreneur. And so it's kind of crazy to look back because my pitch, like my whole thing, I was like, man, why are these companies charging so much? We can charge like half their price, And so that was my pitch. I was like, hey, we're like as good as them, but we're like half the price. Go with us. And guess what? It worked. So I thought it was good. And that was a problem because then I found myself in those situations where I'm like, man, how do these big guys do it? How I can't afford an office manager. How am I going to afford a shop? I mean, we were operating out of a storage unit at the time. I can't afford to get a warehouse space and an office and insurance. Now I got to get that. And man, the I got to buy a van and wrap it. Like you can't afford to do this stuff. And so obviously I learned the hard way, but the thing I teach people now is act like who you want to be. Price this job like who you want to be. And that's the only way to get to where you want to be. Because if you're acting like who you are now today, which I did for years, you'll never get ahead. You'll always be behind. You'll need to sell the next job to pay for the last one. It's a scary situation to be in, and it's pretty simple to solve. Like just start acting like who you want to be. So yeah, you don't have an office manager right now that's 50 grand a year. Well, put that number down on a spreadsheet. Put it on a piece of paper. Oh, you don't have that shop that costs you 2 grand a month. That's 24 for the year. Put it down. Oh, well, you think, oh, well, I don't have to buy another drill. I've already paid for that. Well, what about equipment replacement costs? Oh, this van, I already paid for it. No, it's going to die at some point. You're going to have to pay taxes. Sorry, guys. Where's that money going to come from? So put all this stuff in this sheet and figure out exactly what it's going to cost you to build your dream business. And then you can back into exactly what it costs you to wake up every day. I call it my daily overhead number. And you go, wow, it cost me $3,300 just to wake up. Better raise my price, you know? And most of us are afraid to charge a lot because we're like, well, the materials are only this, and it only takes me a couple hours or whatever it is. But when you understand the true cost of operating your business, it helps you feel less guilty for charging what you should be charging.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we see companies get that realization, whether it's early on when they first start out, or unfortunately sometimes a little bit later down the road when they're almost forced to. And now when it comes to margin, so the average green industry company does around maybe 5-6% net profit. What do you kind of think is a good goal for, when it comes to landscape lighting? What kind of margins are you seeing, maybe with net profit and also gross margin?
Yeah, so I mean, gross margin's almost easier to talk about because as you know, by the time you get to net, there's a lot of fuzzy stuff that happens in between there. People running personal expenses in their business that they probably shouldn't, and how much are you paying yourself a salary versus owner's draws and all that stuff. Um, but typically, your gross margin on landscape lighting is going to be 65 to 70%. It's going to be really high. Um, and then it depends on how you run your business. So a lot of people are afraid to invest in advertising. If you're new and you don't have a brand and you're in growth mode, I tell people you better be willing to spend 10, 15, even 20%. And I know that might sound crazy, but like that's how fast I want to grow. Like I'm going to go buy market share. No one knows who I am. I'm going to go make noise. I'm going to get noisy, and I'm going to do that by getting in front of people. If that's not your goal and you're just trying to hang around, then yeah, you don't need that. So that 20% is going to cut potentially 10%. It's going to be even more into my bottom line, but a well-run landscape lighting business that's charging the right price, that's got a 10 to 15% advertising budget, let's say, they're making 20 points on the bottom line on their net.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think that's a great point too, Ryan, in regard to um, spending that additional funds on marketing and advertising, because especially for a company that's just starting out, it may seem like a lot percentage wise, 20%, but if you're shooting to be a $300,000 company, that 20% is not really that much, in comparison to what other companies in that market might be spending. So, um,
Yeah, and,
definitely
and no one
something.
knows who you are. So,
Yeah,
as we grew our business, we started high and then your revenue starts to creep up. You start to get more repeat business, more referral, which you're not paying for. And now all of a sudden that percentage comes down. So the year I sold my business in 2019, we did over $600,000 in repeat business. That's repeat, not referral. That's just like we did some lights for them before and they either got a new house or they added lights at their existing house, whatever it is. You don't have that luxury. Your first 5 years of business, you're not going to sell 600,000 in repeat business. It's just not possible. And
yeah,
so you have to figure out a way to get out ahead of it. So, um, yeah, it really is a balance. And again, it depends on what your goals are for growth. But I know a lot of people are starving right now. They say, "Oh, I need more leads. I just need more money." And it's like, well, it's not just going to happen. Like you're either going to spend time or money. So if you're not going to spend that 15, 20%, then you better get out and start knocking doors. Like something you have to control the inputs. You can't just hope for a good output.
Yeah, I totally agree, Ryan, and I think that some companies, even from what we see, sometimes they kind of get comfortable once you do kind of get to a certain size, and they don't want to then kind of continue to invest back into the company. They'd rather just take it in profits, which is fine, but I think it's definitely I know even when we started Cycle CPA, we no one knew about us either, right? So it's trying to find a way just to get your name out there. Now, you had mentioned repeat business. For that side of things, what is your approach with that? Do you have kind of like that existing email list that you kind of utilize, or how do you stay in touch with some of your clients?
Yeah, great question. Couple things. And by the way, like it's not like I was born doing this. So for most of the years we did it wrong. But then we figured some things out. So and it was through experience. So I remember selling a landscape lighting job to a very wealthy person, gated neighborhood. It was about a $25,000 job. And at the time, I remembered almost everybody. I had a memory for that. And then about 3 months later, we had an opening in our schedule for some Christmas lights. We basically told most people no, like we didn't advertise Christmas. We're very selective on who we do work for, but we had a couple spots open. So we emailed our top clients on our list, those who spent the most money with us and said, hey, we've got an opening. And she was one that called us out. So I go and meet with her and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you sent that email. I said, really? She's like, yeah, literally like yesterday, my husband and I were talking about getting Christmas lights, and we couldn't remember for the life of us who did our landscape lighting. Now, Joe, this was only 3 months. 3 months. You forgot who you gave $25,000 to? Are you freaking kidding me? I mean, I'm just like, what is happening? And if I didn't have this experience, I wouldn't have learned this, right? And it just opened my eyes. I'm like, wait a minute, people don't love us. People don't remember us. People don't think about us every night when they see their lights and just think Majestic Outdoor Lighting, like, no, they have lives and 25 grand is nothing for them. They're on to bigger and better things. So literally from that day on, we put in place a targeted email campaign where every week they're going to get an email from us. And it's not a sales email. It's just like, hey, fall's coming up. Have you winterized this? Have you done these? Like, it's just tips. Hey, did you know this pool company is having a big open house? Take your family and they're doing a carnival or whatever. Like, it doesn't even really matter what it is. Just we want to stay top of mind. And every once in a while, you can make an offer. So, number one, that's how you get repeat business is stay engaged. Number two is we sold maintenance plans. So we would have maintenance plans to upkeep their lights. Their LED, they're going to last a long time, but they still get dirty. They still need maintenance. They still get moved by the landscaper. They get covered with mulch. The kids knock them over, whatever it is. And so these maintenance plans allowed us to stay in front of our clients twice a year, very proactive, not reactive. So we're calling them saying, hey, we're going to be there this week. And when you do a service like that, it's truly red carpet, white glove. They love that. They appreciate that. And then they see your logoed truck in front of their house. They see their neighbors see that. And it allows you to maintain that relationship. And then from there, you can also do some other things. You can have automations now. We didn't have automations back then, but now you can have automated voicemail bombs, automated texts, emails. Hey, just checking in. Want to make sure everything's good for you guys. I know it's been a few months. How's everything working? I mean, when you do things like that, you build a business that has a lot of that repeat business.
That's awesome. And how much of that, like even as a percentage wise, would you say makes up a healthy level of that maintenance versus more of the install side when it comes to a business? Like could you build up where it's 10% of maintenance out of that total revenue for
Yeah,
for a year?
for sure. That's about what it was for us. Was about 10% of our revenue. I never looked at maintenance as like a profit center for us. Like we made a ton of money on our installs. So I was like if I was just looking at it on paper without the real world experience, I probably would have raised my price more on the maintenance because we didn't make a whole lot of money on it. but it did these other things for us that aren't, you can't really track on paper. So even, and I tell people, I'm like, dude, if I lost money on maintenance, I'd still do it because what the advantage is, it gets you the repeat business. It gets you in those neighborhoods when the economy's slow, you're still doing maintenance. And the neighbors go, oh, what are they doing over there? And so you're going to generate more phone calls. Your truck wrap leads are going to increase with a maintenance plan. So I'm I'm say it again. I'm willing to lose money on maintenance, although I'm never willing to lose money, but
Yeah.
I would be willing to in a hypothetical scenario because of the benefits it gives you on the other side of your business.
Okay. And then as for as for types of landscape lighting, so would you consider Christmas lights as landscape lighting as well, or I guess, and even in addition to that, Ryan, what do you kind of consider as maybe even some of the subcategories of landscape lighting?
Yeah, this is what's wild. So this industry is still very immature. I mean, it's been around for decades. Even when I started in '07, I was like, "Oh crap, I'm too late." You're not at all. Like most people still don't even know what is landscape lighting, what is architectural lighting, what's the difference between that and Christmas lights. Now there's permanent lighting. Have you seen the permanent lighting that's color changing on buildings and houses that stays up year round? So they are different. And what's nice about it is you might get a lead today for someone who just wants Christmas lights. Okay. So you go do that for them. But when you take those down in January, man, it sure is dark. Would you guys want lights year round? Yeah, what do you got? Well, we can do landscape lighting. So landscape lighting is really, I call it landscape lighting, but it's landscape lighting and architectural lighting. So that's where you light the trees, you put pathway lights and stuff like that. You can do lights high up in the trees and cast through the branches. So you get this really cool shadow pattern on the ground, moonlighting pattern. People that have outdoor kitchens, cabanas, you can do some really cool custom things underneath the countertops, up in the roof, bar lights, color changing tape lights around pools. So a lot of little niche stuff there. Core drilled on the sides of like walkways or in driveways. You can do stuff that's mounted in the concrete even after it's all been installed. And then of course lighting the home exterior itself. People love that. It feels like you turn like any boring house into like this resort like feel when you have a dialed in lighting design.
Absolutely. And do you see any opportunities on the commercial side as well, or is it mostly residential?
Yeah, there definitely is. So we always focused on high-end residential. I didn't know how to go after commercial. I found that it was a different sales process. Now you're getting in with boards and long decision-making processes, and I was like, dude, I just want to go make 10 grand tonight. I just want to like go to a rich person's home and change their life and get a check, right? So that's what we did. But where we did get into it is a lot of these wealthy people,
Have
they were
business.
CEOs, they were business owners, they owned restaurants, they owned hotels. So we did get into that, and it was kind of the backdoor approach to the commercial space. Like we didn't have to go through the regular channels because they're like, no, I own these three hotels. Just go tell me how much it costs and get it done.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, Ryan. And yeah, because sometimes on the commercial side, they might care more about the um, that expense and how it's going to impact profits of the company and stuff like that. So no, but that's really interesting. Now, for for some of the design build work in the green industry, I think one of the things that becomes a little bit difficult as companies scale is just the training component, right? And each project being having a uniqueness to it, and requiring more of that skilled um, approach and knowledge. In regard to landscape lighting, how standardized can you make the certain projects in regard to creating it where to really help with the training and kind of the scalability of it
Yeah,
on the landscape
that's
side.
really good. So it can be standardized. I've found that most people make it way more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah,
And it's kind of one of the fun things about lighting is like, can you make the same amount or more money in roofing? Probably, but there's no creativity. It's
yeah,
just like go put a roof on. Like, like it's not that awesome. HVAC is like, well, I'm gonna really design you a cool duct system. Like, I don't know how creative you can get there, right?
yeah.
But landscape lighting it allows that creative element of your mind. So the challenge there is people can take that too far, and it's like it's so creative that you can't create some baseline training procedures. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I've done is I've kind of changed the industry to make it more scalable. And I always had, even though I appreciate the design side, like I love that I could use my creativity, that's not necessarily who I am naturally. I'm like, how do we make this more efficient? And so,
Yeah.
as an example, if I'm teaching you lighting design, like one of the first things I'll do is I'll show you like imagine like the front of your house right now. Okay, it has windows, it has a front door, probably has some garages, probably has a walkway, maybe some steps. It's got some trees, some plants. Okay, I've never seen your house, but it probably has all of that. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now if you were to get, I just sent the fixtures to you, and I was going to tell you, and I literally haven't seen your house or anything like that. But what you're going to do is you're going to put a light in the ground on each side of the window. Okay, each side of the window, just center it on each side of the window. And then if there's a wall or a gap where you don't have windows, I want you to use the same spacing that you were going to use on the windows. Okay, and I want you to place that light about 15 inches away from the house. So you're not going to put it right up against it. You're not going to get it 20 feet back. It's just going to be about 15 inches away. And then you want to aim it straight up and like one click in, like 1 degree in. Okay. You're not going to aim it at the house. You're going to go straight up 1 degree in. When you do that, oh, and on your front entry, because there's no windows there, you're going to get a light on the left and the right of the entry. Okay. Because you want to make that kind of a focal point. No, just knowing that, do you think you could go maybe light the front of your house?
I mean, it's it it definitely makes it easier.
So that's where we start is like there's some rules that if you
Yeah.
follow, and you might show me a picture of your house and I'm like, oh well, see this little thing, this is a little bit different. And then all of a sudden you get to the second story and you're like, okay, what are the windows up here? Are these bedrooms? Are these dormers? Do you want to get some height, which you probably do with some lighting at night? So
Yeah.
depending on how that is, we're gonna hit those dormers with light. Um, maybe over by your garages, we're going to do some downlights in the eaves over there. So it not only looks nice, but it gives you some area lights over your garages. And then for your walkways, oh, you have a large tree. Let's do a couple downlights out of that tree and really give you some of that dappled downlight effect, so you see the shadows and everything. And we'll do a few uplights on each of your trees. And now all of a sudden we have the house, we have it layered with the walkway, we have it layered with the landscaping, and we're really bringing dimension to it. And that's what brings the lighting design together.
That's awesome stuff, Ryan. No, it's um like like you said, it kind of you know it really creates that opportunity where you can be creative if that's where if you kind of like that because I know that sometimes people that do more of the maintenance work uh, in regard to mowing and stuff like that. I think sometimes um, especially if people are working a lot in the field, they that can get a little um, you know a little repetitive here
It's
and there.
just
So this is
monotonous.
yeah
Yeah, it's like
yeah
doing
yeah
the same thing over and over. And in our world, we're doing the same thing over and over. But I'm telling you, like lighting is so addictive. Even our technicians, the guys that were doing the installs, when we'd show them, like, dude, I went and did a nighttime walkthrough last night. I took these pictures. They're like, what? We did
yeah
that? Holy cow. Like they just thought they were
yeah.
burying
That's
wire and
awesome.
putting pictures in the ground. Like, no, you
Yeah
guys did this. And then
yeah
it's fun when you take them to a property because they don't want to go out every night, but like we'd go out and take them to some of these bigger properties and people would be like, yeah, bring your guys over. We'll do a barbecue, whatever. When you take them and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did this.
yeah
It is very rewarding. And when you hear the customers talk about it, when they're almost in tears going, I can't believe this is our house. Like you make us feel so good.
yeah
Um, that's a great feeling and it builds confidence in raising your price and closing deals because you're like, hey, we're doing a good thing here. We're not just making money by selling fixtures. We truly are impacting their lives. Their house is more secure. It's safer with the steps lit and the property stuff like that. It helps
yeah
them with their mental health. They feel good. And I'm telling you, I've been in the lighting industry now since 2007. So what, 17, 18 years? Every night. This happens every night that I drive up to my house. I'm like, gosh, that looks good. It gives you this hit of emotion. And so it
yeah.
truly is the gift that keeps on giving.
That's awesome, Ryan. No, that's it's a Yeah, definitely a great feeling when you can have that kind of impact for sure. Um, Now, there's a lot of people listening that, like I said in the beginning, they might be looking to add this on as an additional service line. Let's say if there's someone, maybe you have $1 million hardscape company and or whatever it is, right? And is this something that you can, in essence, train someone internally to kind of handle? Or is this something where maybe it's something where you really need someone with an expertise where, it's going to take a long time to kind of train them, I guess. How easy is something like this to really kind of implement within a company?
Yeah, well, it really does depend, I would say. If you have someone that wants to spearhead it, that's passionate
Yeah,
about it, it's going to be a lot easier. If you're forcing it, then, it's probably not going to be worth it, but you
yeah,
definitely need someone dedicated to it because someone like you get what you focus on. And if
yeah,
you're like, yeah, that sounds good. If anyone asks us about landscape lighting, we'll do it. You're probably not going to do that many jobs.
yeah,
But when you have someone who's focused on it, who takes it serious, we have, like I said, our lighting academy that walks everyone through exactly how to design, exactly how to install, what fixtures to use, where to put them, how to do maintenance plans, how to set all the stuff up. We have our landscape lighting secrets program, which is like how to price things, how to scale the business, how to generate high quality leads. So there's resources out there. It just depends on how serious you take it, how fast you want to go. Um, if you're on the fence and you're like, well, I just don't know, the easiest way is to go contact one of my clients. Like you guys can reach out to me and I'll connect you guys. You guys could do a partnership and go do 5 jobs together. You'll get paid to learn how to do this stuff because they'll pay you a referral fee for the job and you can, see how it's sold. You can see how it's installed. And that kind of is like, let's dip our toe in, do 5 jobs together. And if we like it, let's pursue it. We'll dedicate a guy to be like, that's his main gig and maybe a couple or 3 guys. Or you could decide, you know what, this is a pretty good gig right now. We'll just keep referring these guys, make the profit and not have to do it. That's kind of a way to test it out to see if it works for you. And that's worked. I've connected people and they've been successful that way. And then others are like, heck no, we're doing this. We've already had 20 clients ask us about landscape lighting. Just like tell me how to get started.
that's awesome. Very cool. And one last question for you here, Ryan. Any other metrics, or whether it's financial or other metrics within the company that you like to look at? I know we spoke about net profit margins and different things like that. Is there maybe revenue per employee, or anything else that you kind of like to see um, within companies?
Yeah, I mean, those are all good. Like revenue per employee is interesting. We were just talking about that with one of our groups, and some people are like, "Hey, this is cool. I'm up to like 500 grand per employee," and I'm like,
Yeah,
"All right, that's actually a bad thing." And it's like, "Well, I thought it was supposed to be efficient." It's like, "Well, you're doing too much. You need to hire more people and
yeah,
buy back your time." So
yeah,
there are metrics that like can be good and bad, and there's kind of a balance to find. That one's hard to measure on like a weekly or monthly basis. I definitely like cost per lead, cost per call, like lead conversion, how many people call versus booked appointments, how many of those convert to sales. I'm a marketing guy, so I like to see like um, the lead source and break that down by like, okay, how many of Google, how are those converting versus yard signs versus truck wraps versus referrals? And like, okay, well, why is that one higher? Why is that one lower? Is it the quality of the lead? Is it something else we're doing on the initial phone call? Those are the types of things that really get me fired up.
that's awesome, Ryan. No, that's all key stuff there. And what's the best way people can reach out to you if they have any other questions, or if they just want to learn more about everything that you do with the landscape lighting resources?
Yeah, so I mean, I told you in like 3 weeks, and depending on when you guys are listening to this, it's February 27th, 28th, and March 1st, Orlando, Florida. I'm telling you guys, if you want to like just even dip your toe, you're like, is this worth it? Should we do this? This is the fastest way to figure it out. It's Light It Up Expo, and you can go to lightitupexpo.com. And if you guys want, you can use promo code LIT100. LIT100 will save you $100 per ticket. So if you want to bring your team or your couple key people or whatever, we're like I said, depending on when this airs, we're running out of the discounted room block rates. But right now, it's only 169 a night, and it's literally across the street from Universal Studios. We've got discounted, like we had to negotiate this amazing rate. So We're trying to keep all the costs low. But that's the fastest way. If you're like, man, I think I should look at landscape lighting. And what's cool about Light It Up is it's landscape lighting, holiday lighting, and permanent lighting. So we're going to have breakouts on those. We're going to have the vendors so you can talk with manufacturers. You can network and rub shoulders with people. We're going to have people that do millions of dollars a year there. So this is your chance to like really find out if this is for you or you want to get jump started. If you can't come to that, then follow me on, Instagram. It's at Landscape Lighting Secrets. On Facebook, it's Ryan Lee, but there's like a bunch of Ryan Lees, so I'm not sure how to tell you to find me there. And then, of course, we have lightingacademy.net, and that'll help you get started in the process, which is our training platform. You can get started for a dollar trial on that. So that's probably the best way.
Well, listen, Ryan, thank you very much. I even learned a lot about landscape lighting here for sure, and I definitely know those that are looking to get into it and even just improve, their businesses if they're currently operating with it. I think it's great advice, great tips, and thank you very much for joining us here, Ryan.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Love what you're doing, man. Keep it up.
All right.